Furthermore, the implications of Socrates' charge are devastating, not only for Hippias's position, but also to the character of Achilles. First, Achilles is shown to be as polytropos, as twisting, as Odysseus in every sense of the term. He's changed his mind. Regardless of the reasons for these changes, he has changed, and this is in many ways no better than Odysseus himself. Secondly, Achilles has outwitted Odysseus and lied about his intentions both in word and deed. Under both Hippias and Socrates' conceptualization of lying, Achilles has spoken and acted falsely. Thirdly, if Achilles is as simple and truthful as Hippias claims he is, Achilles must leave Troy. Even persuasion from without in the straightforward speech of Ajax, or from within, Hippias's argument that Achilles' goodwill induced him to change his mind, these things cannot justify his decision to remain with the Achaeans. Achilles, therefore, is guilty of the charge he levels against Odysseus. The disjunction that he despises in others also exists within himself. He lacks the single-mindedness that he claims to have, and this too exposes Achilles as a liar. In a terrible twist of irony, Achilles conceals something, whether good or bad, in his heart, and it is this which brings about his demise. In failing to live up to his own moral standard, Achilles brings himself figuratively and literally face to face with the dreaded gates of Hades. Achilles thinks that what he says and what he means are the same, and he thinks he says and means these things at the expense of diplomacy and decorum. But there is nothing here except unknowing simplicity on his part. By abandoning his moral code, Achilles intentionally and unintentionally, in fact, steps outside of the heroic code of conduct, never realizing what it is that he has done. It is for this reason that Achilles cannot be the best of the Achaeans, and thus Socrates is completely within his rights to claim that Odysseus is better than Achilles, or so Socrates argues. The expertise of Hippias in this dialogue is shown to be farcical when he engages in either Socratic or rhapsodic dialectic, but it is doomed to failure when it comes to ethical education. Hippias's inability to successfully function as an interpreter of Homer explicitly exposes Hippias as a pretender, and implicitly reveals the problems with using Homer's epics as an educational text. Not only is it impossible to consult the author as to his meaning and intention, the characters themselves lack self-awareness and are oblivious to their own motivations. The sophist, who offer themselves as interpreters of the poet and as educators, are no better. Hippias shows us that they, too, are wanderers, men of twisting and changing opinions. A Homeric education raises young men to emulate the great heroes of the past, but in imitating Achilles, these young men will be as disjointed as he is. A citizenry of liars and cheats who think themselves to be simple and truthful is the ultimate result of a system of education that is based on a faulty moral code. When that code collapses, the good man will be the man who acts voluntarily. So Socrates argues. Lacking self-awareness is not an option. Involuntary action, be it just or unjust, degrades the social fabric and is ultimately inconsistent with democracy. In a system of government which relies on persuasive speech, the untenable single-mindedness of Achilles is not only lethal, it is impossible. So where does this leave us today? What lesson are we to draw from this exchange? The problems of true and false speech, knowledge and ignorance, and willingness and unwillingness in action have broader implications than can be seen at first glance, both for those Homeric heroes and also for the public who emulate them. But the lesson, or at any rate the point I want to draw attention to, is to the Socratic exchange itself. Even in 5th century BC Athens, the lessons of antiquity were unclear. And if we learn anything from this exchange, let it be that we must embrace ambiguity, question cultural conventions, and never assume that antiquity, in all its diversity, has anything to teach us that we ourselves don't already know. As Seneca put it so succinctly to his young friend Lucilius, why then do we educate our children in the ways of antiquity. It is not because they can bestow virtue, but because they prepare the mind for virtue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Rudolph. At this point, I'm reminded of Sidonius's injunction that learned conversation needs to give way to the announcement of the midday meal, which I'm sure that we are all anticipating. I know that I speak on behalf of all of the panelists in thanking you very, very much for your kind attention, and with all due apologies to the viewers from C-SPAN, all of us I know look forward to learned conversation or otherwise with you over the luncheon. So thank you very much. This concludes the morning panel.